You tell a story. He does too. Can he one up you? Well, that's up to you. Tell your best tale and you never know. You could be a winner on the One Upper Show.
Okay, and welcome back to the One Upper Show. I'm your host, Ted Blazak, and we're at the Farmers Market in Coeur d'Alene in this early June day. And we've had another great person who is kind enough to come by and share his story. And what's your name?
So my name is Safa.
Safa. And where are you from, Safa?
So I was born in Baghdad, Iraq. But
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When?
1987, September 30th. If you
Okay,
really.
way before Desert Storm.
Right. Well, I left Iraq in 91 when I was about 3.5, which would have been just at the end of the first Desert Storm.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
So, wow. That's a whole.
A whole other
Is that a story? Is that the story?
Well, I'm going to tell this story essentially, but I'm going
Yeah.
to tell the story from the inspiration in my life,
Okay.
which is my mother, because she's the one that makes this story happen. I'm just a kid.
Oh, this sounds wonderful. I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear this story. Okay,
Okay.
tell
you.
us. Kick us off.
So we'll talk about my mom. Her name is Lydia.
Yeah.
Lydia is one of the coolest, most calm, patient people that you could ever get to know.
Yeah.
Also with a spicy side because she's a mom, so it is what it is.
It's lovely. And by the way, are you from this area, Coeur d'Alene area?
No, we'll get
Oh,
there.
well,
The whole story is going to get you there. It's going to go through all of it.
But shut up, and I'm going to listen. All right.
You're not. So Lydia is born in 1957. She's born to Florence and William. Florence, her side of the family is Chaldean, which is the oldest form of Christianity, essentially. So if you ever saw the Passion of the Christ,
I missed that one.
okay, so they said they spoke Aramaic, which is the language that Jesus spoke. But
Yeah.
Aramaic is technically a dead language.
Yeah.
So they spoke Chaldean, which is a derivative kind of
for the movie.
For the movie. Yeah.
Oh, so because it's an ancient language.
It's a dead language.
Oh,
technically.
oh,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
Or
oh.
no, not a Chaldean.
Okay.
Aramaic is a dead
Aramaic,
language.
yes.
And then
Yeah.
so Chaldean, you'll find large populations of Chaldeans in Michigan, Nevada, and
I just need the buzzer.
sorry.
So, is that,
This is my fiance Cheyenne.
yeah, your fiance, come here.
Jack,
Say
come
hello.
say hi.
Hello, I'm Cheyenne.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so Chaldean large pockets in Michigan, Nevada, and California. You'll see it all. It's still a spoken language. There's still little schools that teach it, which is great. So that's her side, her mom's side of the family. Her dad's side of the family, her father was born in New Delhi now, but Bombay, India, and his dad was Portuguese.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, kind of fun, kind of exciting. Okay. She's born in 57. She goes to Catholic schools growing up, right? He gets in Iraq, right?
Okay,
Which is kind of like very small population. In 1991, you could consider 3% of Iraq Christian or Catholic, essentially, or some form of Orthodox.
And of the Christian denominations in Iraq, was Catholicism the most popular?
I would probably, yes, most likely,
Okay,
right? So
yeah.
because, the Chaldeans, they're it's not Roman Catholic. It's Catholic.
No,
It's
but
just one of the
I know
Catholics,
there's a
right?
strong Catholic population in India and Korea. Yeah.
So if you look at it this way, so you've got Israel right here, and you've got Jesus,
Yeah.
okay, and then he's got his apostles, right? And
Yeah.
they go out into the world, right?
Yes.
So you see the letters of Paul or
Right.
in Syria and things like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
Baghdad, essentially, that entire area
Yes.
was one of the first Christians that ever came to the world.
Sure. And
Yeah.
active highway system in the world.
Yeah, yes, exactly. The center of the world. You
Yeah.
got Genghis Khan, Romans, everybody coming
Right.
in and just
Yeah.
just being like, "What's up, little piece of desert?"
I think it's the
Yes.
then.
Super exciting times,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, from there, she goes to the University of Baghdad. She gets a degree in economics and marketing. Eventually, later in her career, she worked for a Brazilian missile company. Okay. She was the assistant to the guy that's in charge, right? And was the only woman allowed in the Ministry of Defense in Iraq.
What?
Just crazy stuff,
Yeah,
right?
fascinating.
She gets married, she gets pregnant, and I show up. Hey, right? 1987, September 30th. Leading up to that, okay, she lived through 10 years of war. Okay.
Oh,
Iran,
Iraq War,
we're
right?
talking
Yeah.
about 1 million dead soldiers over a
Yeah.
10-year span.
Yes.
Absolutely horrific. From her childhood, there was even war, and there
Yeah.
was prisoners of war. She even has a story of my grandfather worked for the railroad. My grandmother was a school teacher at the same school where Saddam Hussein's first wife was the principal.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Right? It's kind of
wow.
fun.
Right,
Yeah. So my grandmother tutored Saddam Hussein's two oldest boys when they were in fourth and fifth grade. Be- Because,
Wow.
yes,
So your grandmother tutored Saddam
Hussein's
Hussein's son.
sons
Okay.
when they were in fourth and fifth grade, his oldest two, right? Which my grandma's cool, right? But but we're still talking about my mom.
I'm really fascinated by that angle. I saw the HBO miniseries special.
Absolute crazy people.
Right,
But
right.
we're talking about
Those
little
two.
kids at that point, though.
I know.
Yeah,
Where did
it's
they go
you
wrong?
know,
Right?
where did you? Oh, you know where they went wrong? They went wrong. I will say that for a minute. They went wrong because at the end of the day, their father was a dictator and out of
He's a
control.
crazy
And
man.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's absolute crazy, man. And they
Yeah.
both became absolutely crazy
Yes.
at the end. I mean,
Yes.
literally walking down to cells drunk and shooting people. You
Yeah,
know, my mom tells me
tigers and stuff.
there were private clubs essentially for
Yeah.
Christians, right?
Uh-huh.
Where they could gather, go hang out, do things like have little parties. And the way she describes this to me, all I can think of is like literally like a members only private club,
Right.
right? And you go there and you hang out.
And if he's a Christian teaching Saddam Hussein's sons, which is
Well,
also
you know, so in Salt Lake City, Utah, right now, one of the best cooks I've ever met in my life lives there. She was actually Saddam Hussein's personal chef.
wow.
Okay.
Really?
And the crazy part about Saddam Hussein is all his staff,
Yeah.
all his guards, they were all Christians.
Really?
He didn't trust everybody else.
Oh,
Yeah.
safe. They were.
They were saved. They weren't part of
it.
they're not trying to do anything. They're just trying to exist and not die.
Right. They're servant class.
You know, so that's actually good to Christians. My mom tells me a story when she was in her 20s, right, where you know Christian women were allowed to wear essentially still conservative, but did not have to wear an abaya or anything like that. So and they could wear their crosses. So like in the 70s, there was a movement where people were running up to Christians and ripping their crosses off, right? But Saddam Hussein put an end to that.
Oh, right.
Right. So, like, exactly the people that are taking care of him, making sure that he's, you know, getting his food, security, all of that. He's
right.
probably,
No,
yes.
much more secular regime than
Yes.
the Middle East.
Yeah, I don't know if I would describe his regime as secular because when like he would, I think Saddam Hussein could be one of the most like leading up to his egregious acts, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about the last 5, maybe 8 years, and this is just a theory, right? That I have. So I have my undergraduate degrees in Middle East studies with an emphasis in Arabic. Just because I didn't know the politics, history, nothing of that. I moved to the U.S. when I was 8.5, so I thought it was a good thing to learn. But like he could be like there are places where he's misunderstood, right? No, hold on. Hear me out for a second. And so one of the worst atrocities that he did is he released biological weapons on his own people.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. Enemy tribes,
but
not his
own. No, his own. I don't know if you'd call them enemy tribes per se, but do you know why?
Why he did that?
Why he did it?
Demonstrate power and eliminate his enemies.
They were harboring soldiers from Iran.
Oh, they were supporting the
enemy
in a war,
right?
Well, I imagine they were enemy.
What would the U.S. do if Montana harbored Canadian soldiers in a Canada-U.S. war?
Well, I would mass gas genocide.
That I would agree as well. But even before that, like he did awful things. Like that's really the epicenter, right, or the time where you're like, all right, you got to forget Saddam.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
because that is a terrible thing, right?
yeah.
Before that, you could
Yeah.
argue that there was like well, we're getting into politics,
Oh,
which I'm not supposed to do.
also,
Yeah.
let's get back
So
to
let's
the
get back to
story.
the story.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about my mom. So she is in her 30s. She gets pregnant. We've, there's stories from her life where her dad worked for the railroad, right? And so they always lived by the railroad. And one of these railroads was where they held prisoners. So she's got a story of like going into hiding in her own home because there was alarms going off because prisoners had gotten out.
Escape.
Just
Wow.
absolutely crazy things, right? So she has me. Now this is 1987. Okay. Um, Iraq was an interesting country.
That's the year you were born, 87.
87,
Okay.
September 30th, 87. So she has me, right?
Yeah.
And she it's interesting, right? Tensions are high. The Iran-Iraq war ended when we're approaching the first Gulf War. Saddam Hussein decided, hey, we're going to go take Kuwait back because, we're talking now. This is really just yes.
Backdrop.
Okay. So society changes a little bit as things are happening, right?
Yeah.
Law enforcement. She remembers when I was a kid, right? Was still in a car seat. She was driving to work, taking me with her. She had forgotten something. She drove back to her house and then went back again, and she got pulled over to be by law enforcement, essentially, and being like, "Why are you going back and forth?"
Oh,
Yeah. First Gulf War happens, right?
Yeah.
And she lives through that. First Gulf War ends in 1991. Okay. And at that time, her and my dad, they decide, hey, we're gonna go to Jordan.
Oh, they're going to immigrate.
They're gonna
They're gonna
immigrate.
get out of
They're
a
just
war
gonna
zone.
bounce. Yes.
Okay.
So, this is kind of a fun one. We took a taxi from Iraq to Jordan. Okay.
I've heard of this app.
It's like taking a cab from Idaho to Seattle, or
Right,
probably
a
further.
very
And yeah,
long cab ride,
very
but
long cab
still
ride. Okay.
manageable.
And this guy would open his seat and says, hey, everybody, if you've got gold, if you've got cash, whatever, put it in my seat as we go through customs. Okay. Now, obviously, I'm 3.5 years old at this point, so this isn't like my first, like what I saw.
If someone said to me, I'd be like, what?
Exactly. I can't even imagine. Like, I don't know what my parents did at the time, right? Like, it's just. So
did they give them?
I think they did, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody else was doing it. All right,
Yeah.
and he was actually a good guy. He gave it back.
Oh,
Right?
he
Yeah,
did?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well,
No,
that
I don't
was-
have any stories about being robbed. Going to,
Okay.
yeah. So, I'm 3.5. So this is some of these. A lot of this is stories I've been told, and very little actual recollection.
So they hide the possessions and they take the cab to Jordan.
Yeah.
What happened?
So we go to Jordan, we get to Jordan. Okay. So, Jordan's also a Muslim country, right? Where this is 1991. Jordan today is not what it was in 1991. It's a completely different country. Very westernized. The Jordanian king, his mother is American.
Right.
Yeah. So
I remember them
very
there,
western. It's a different country. But in 1991, it wasn't. We lived in Hashimi Shamali, which is about 30 minutes, I think, south of Jordan, of Amman, excuse me. Okay. And we lived there for 5.5 years because it took 5.5 years for my parents to be able to file for refugee status with the United Nations.
Oh.
Okay. And refugee status is a different type. You apply for it, you go through interviews, there's an entire process. It's the legal way of immigration, essentially. Yes. And so when you get a refugee status, Jordan, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Jordan, Iraqis were not allowed to work. And that was because Saddam Hussein threatened Abdullah at the time. Hey, if you allow the people that just ran away from my country work, I'm probably going to pick a fight with you. In so many words, right? It's not okay. So they're not allowed to work. So my dad is very skilled, one of the most handy people you'll ever meet. He just starts painting for people. My mom, who's educated, is now tutoring a Greek Orthodox priests. So Catholics can't get married. Catholic priests can't get married. Greek Orthodox priests, as long as before they take the priesthood, are married, they can have a family and children.
Okay.
So he had 3 kids, and she would tutor him in English and French and math.
Okay.
Okay. Did that for about 5.5 years, applied for the United Nations. Now, once you're accepted as a refugee, you get to say, hey, these are the countries we want to go to.
Okay.
Okay. And so my parents picked Australia, Brazil, and the US.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Brazilian Missile Company. I don't know why Australia was an option. I should probably find out, but okay, we interview with all 3 of them. At this point, I'm 8.5. So when I say we, it's like the royal, like I really didn't do anything.
Of course,
Yeah.
Sure.
But we interview with all of them, and both the U.S., Australia, and Brazil say yes, you can come to our country. Yeah, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
From there, we get to decide. So my mom chooses to go to the U.S. My mom and dad, they choose the U.S. They choose it because, and I say my mom and dad, okay, because they're making the decisions together. My mom is the driving force. He is the human that makes it happen. My dad is very good with the physical doing stuff, not very good at the other, like paperwork, getting through, making the appointments, making the meetings, saying what you need, like making sure that you're sellable and you know, people want you, right?
Yeah.
So you get what I'm saying?
I know the yes.
There's different
very
dynamics,
familiar
right?
with
You know,
those
opposites attract. Yeah. So she chooses the U.S. because essentially her uncle lives in California. He was going to be in our sponsor. So we're loading up. We're ready to go. We're on a plane to New York. We land in New York, and we found out that her uncle had a stroke.
Oh,
Yeah. While we're on the plane.
and this is your sponsor.
This is our
You gotta
sponsor.
have a sponsor.
I gotta have a sponsor. So he's like, his wife is essentially just saying, I can't do this. We can't do this right now.
Right.
So the UN ends up keeping us in the US for 3 days, keeping us in New York for 3 days while they found us a new sponsor.
Oh.
Right. Cool stuff. So the International Rescue Committee was our new sponsor.
Uh-huh.
They have large headquarters in the in Salt Lake City, Utah. So so we go there. So we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah in 1996, March 23rd, 1996.
I literally couldn't think of a place on the planet more the polar opposite of Iraq. Salt Lake City, which I've been to several times in love.
Yeah, no. Oh, I love Salt Lake. I ski, so it makes me happy, right? The only thing is I just can't do the traffic or the pollution anymore. Is the inversion in Salt Lake is absolutely awful.
That is.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you land in Salt Lake City.
We land in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, my mom then within a year. Okay, she's enrolled in Salt Lake Community College.
Yeah.
Okay, and she's going to study because her marketing degree and her economics degree and her years of experience count for nothing.
I see.
Okay, now she's, let's see, I think it's 296. She's 38 years old. She enrolls at Salt Lake Community College after a year of being in the U.S.
But her credentials
are not recognized. She is starting off as a freshman.
I see.
Okay. One of the most incredible things I've ever seen her do, and she did it all the way for 4 years, okay, is every assignment that she did, she would take from English, translate to Arabic, solve it, translate it back to English.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Really?
She graduated from Salt Lake Community College, which is just community college, in 2 years. She had a 4.0.
Fascinating way to learn.
Fascinating.
I mean, I imagine it would really reinforce the knowledge.
And well, she just felt more comfortable to answer it in Arabic and then can just translate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. That skill right there comes in later in her career. Okay. Because she finishes Salt Lake Community College. She graduates with a 4.0. Okay. She finishes, then she goes to the University of Utah and completes her bachelor degree and graduates with a 3.8 with the University of Utah. Okay, and doing the entire same process.
Yeah.
So to me alone, that is one of the most incredible things.
That's
all this stuff. Yes, tomato.
So far, and it took so long. That's beautiful American story.
Right. And so, and she goes from there. She doesn't actually ever end up using her her degree. Okay. She's 42 years old by the time she graduates, so it's a little bit different. And it's hard to start a career at 42 with a brand new degree in 1998,
Yes.
99. It's a different world than it is today. Yes. So she ends up working for Catholic Community Services.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And becomes a case manager, helps refugees for years. And then she gets in a pretty bad car accident. Like
Oh.
she is bedridden, okay, for 9 months. Okay.
Yeah.
And after that, she lost her job during that time. And then so she becomes a translator for for doctors. So she picks up people, takes them to their medical appointments, translates, and brings them back home.
All right.
All right. Now,
That's great work she's doing.
so
So,
one of the most incredible people I know.
and what is she today?
She lives with me today. I have a kid. She helps me take care of my son. She doesn't have to work because why not? Like,
Well,
I work now, and so she just
Wonderful
lives at home.
family.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this is the story of your mother's amazing life.
Yeah.
And the incredible travels and journeys to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
And she's got to be very proud and happy to have such a good lawyer son.
Well, you don't tell people that; they judge you. That's a
I'm
joke.
sure
That's a
she's,
joke.
very
No.
proud of
They judge me for the lawyer thing.
Oh. Okay, so your story, it's a beautiful story. It's one of difficult and successful immigration, and a new generation of Americans. That's a great story. I love that story.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
an immigrant myself.
Are you
I'm
weird?
an
Okay.
immigrant family. Yeah. Well, and aren't we all?
That is the truth. That is
Yeah.
the truth at the end of
Yes,
the day.
yes. So okay, that was a great story. I'm going to tell my story, and Sage, help me out here. I think have I told this one before about how my people, the Polish people, got to America? A little bit in the intro, but I haven't. All right,
Awesome.
It's a long episode, by the way.
Let's do it.
It's a
Yes.
lot
Sorry.
longer but I'm going to tell my story, and I'm going to tell it briefly, and then when you hear my story, we'll make a judgment of it. Okay, so really briefly, it's a turn of the century. My family comes from a village near Gdansk in Poland, and economic hardship, and immigration doors were open in America. We need workers now, and we really needed them then, and we let them come in.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we're not doing that now. So anyway, my village, 2,000 people got together. They pulled all their resources so they could buy fare to get on the ship to get to America. So they make it all the way through Ellis Island, and they go to the train station, and they want to go to Chicago. There's an incredibly large Polish American population. It's the second most populated Polish city outside of Warsaw. Yeah. So they want to go to Chicago, and they go up to the train station, and they realize at that moment that not one of them speaks a bit of English. So brave enoughly goes up to the train ticket agent and has everybody's money with them. And he goes up and he said, Chicago. He's trying to say
Chicago, yeah.
And instead, the sales agent gives him 2,000 tickets to Chicopee, Massachusetts.
Chicopee, Massachusetts.
I was born.
Yes.
And so 2,000 people get on the train. They're heading east instead of west. They get to Chicopee, Massachusetts. They get off. It's all farm country, and they're all and they realized, or they believed, God's providence that brought them there. So they get on their hands and knees and they pray, and then they find farmland. And now, if you go to Western Massachusetts, you see a very large Polish American community, second to Chicago. and or but and yeah, those are my people. So we have a Polish American. My grandfather was one of those immigrants, and he was in the Polish American Society up there. And I would hear the story all the time, and we would go to polkas and have cookies, and donkeys and pierogies all the time. So that's my immigrant story. That's how my family got to be in America. And honestly, I remember being told this story a lot as a child, and my elders telling it with complete seriousness and having the hardest time not trying to burst out laughing in their face because I thought it was it's a Polish. Anyway, we're gonna give you a T-shirt, and we're gonna copy your mom, the one up on today's episode. And but if you at home have a good immigrant, how the heck you got to America story, and I'm sure pretty much all of you do, then we want to hear it, except for the indigenous folks. We'd love to hear your story even more. But please send it to the oneupper.show@gmail.com. Or listen to us on the oneuppershow.com. And you can listen to us wherever your podcasts are. And remember, email us or type up video or an audio link. And if you can one up, what's your name again?
Safa.
Safa and myself, we're going to send you a T-shirt. So thanks again, and keep those good stories coming.
Thank you.
All right.
That was great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
The One Upper Show is brought to you by Trailblazing Canvassers and the Burning Sage Productions.